Everyone, and welcome to the Monday, August 5th meeting for the African Burying Ground Memorial Park Committee. I'm Assistant Mayor Joe Kelly, very happy to be chairing this. As you have all received an email invitation to be here, just a little backstory for background for the people at home. Over the last 2 terms, this will be my 2nd term, I was lucky enough to chair this committee. Being the first African-American city councilor, it's been a really great committee to try to be part of. One of the things we found, though, over the last 2 years was it was really hard to get a quorum together. So one of the ideas that we came up with was changing the format of this committee. As it's a Mayor's Blue Ribbon Committee, we have the leeway to do that. One of the ideas that we came up with, City Attorney Woodland and myself, was to reformat it and bring in some of the as we call it, descendant groups to represent the community versus having individuals. So that way we could always have a quorum. We tried to address this issue a couple times over the last couple years and just were not able to meet quorum. So one of the things we did, as you'll hear, was invite people from different stakeholders. So I will just go around and have everyone introduce themselves and then say what organization you are from, or if you're just a resident on the committee. So we'll start.
So I'm Suzanne Woodland. I'm the Deputy City Manager and Regulatory Counsel. So I'm just here to assist the Assistant Mayor.
She does a lot of it.
With this committee work, and I have had the privilege of actually working on many versions of this committee over my almost 20 years of employment here. So.
I'm Corin Hellawell. I'm the Parks and Greenery Foreman for the City of Portsmouth.
I'm Jill Minot Seabrook, and I'm on the executive board for SAC.
And what's that stand for?
SAC is
African American Cultural Center.
Where are you located? Just because I've heard of it. Sorry.
It's okay. Inside the Portsmouth Historical Building,
Okay.
we have a space in there when you walk into the left. We do a lot of, I say we, I'm part of the board too. I've just been crazy. Do a lot of art exhibits, education. It's a really great internal museum inside the Portsmouth Historical.
Thank you.
So I'm Jifa Patterson, and I am part of SAC, and I'm co-representative.
Cool.
Awesome.
I'm Dee Forte. I'm the co-chair of the city's historic cemetery group. And I live on Court Street, about 20 yards away from the African burial ground. So.
And I'm Sue Sterry, and I'm the other co-chair of the Historical Cemetery Committee in Portsmouth.
I'm Daria Steele, and I'm the Torrance Speaker Outreach Coordinator for the Black Heritage Trail of New Hampshire.
I'm Gina Bowker. I'm the Operations Manager at the Black Heritage Trail.
Awesome. And then we have another group, the Black Lives Matter New Hampshire, who will have 2 representatives. They unfortunately were just unable to make it today. And then if there are any other stakeholders or organizations you feel that should be part of this, and we'll discuss too, if this committee wants to grow a little bit of their role with potentially a second location. But if there's any other stakeholders that you feel should be part of this, please just let me know. We'll discuss it with staff and then most likely extend an invitation to them. Okay. Well, that was the introductions.
Oh, should we introduce Jerome?
Oh, yes, Jerome.
So Jerome, if you could introduce yourself.
Yes. First of all, apologies for not being able to Zoom in, but Debbie decided to knock out my Wi-Fi in my studio.
Oh, no. Well, stay safe.
I'm going to make sure I do that. Yes, I'm Jerome Meadows, having been honored to be commissioned to design and fabricate the Portsmouth African Burying Ground, which was dedicated, as you all know, back in 2015. It was a distinct honor to receive that commission and have a different approach than most commissions where competitors have about 3 months to put together a proposal, which generally is rather rushed. I was selected as the recipient of the award and had about a year to actually spend time there in Portsmouth and learn the story and confer with stakeholders. So all in all, has been an exquisitely wonderful experience, and I'm looking forward to continuing with necessary repairs, et cetera, et cetera.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, so next we have a discussion of the repair / replacement of the vault cover. So I'll toss it over to the deputy city manager.
Yeah, so for any of you who have been out on site, you know that we've had some, challenges with some elements of the Memorial Park. And part of what we've been doing over the years, and Corin and Jerome can speak to this, is trying to look for ways to better maintain it. And I think Jerome was up, once about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, maybe? Longer?
A little longer than that, right,
Yeah.
Jerome?
Yeah, it's been longer than that, yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, to work on how to maintain some of the statuary and other elements there. But of course, now we have the challenge of the vault cover, one element that we know needs attention. So if you want, we could start with that element and then see how much time we have, and we can talk about maybe some of the other elements that might need some attention as we go forward. So, Jerome, do you want to talk about it, or do you want Corin to set the stage? What would you like?
I guess Corin can set the stage in terms of the group that I was conferring with initially, and how the proposal that you're going to be looking at came about.
Okay, yeah, so the small tiles that make up the Sankofa, which are the orange and yellow portion, we've had an issue with them popping out. So when Jerome came back, I think it was before COVID. I mean, it was 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
We reset, or Jerome reset all of the tiles in a different sort of material. New England, with its freeze-thaw cycle, is extremely difficult to work with, and because of this, they're so tiny, the water's been working in and popping them out, as opposed to the surrounding tile, which are larger, and they haven't moved at all. So,
Good to know.
yeah. So in speaking with Jerome and sort of brainstorming what to do, the idea came up to maybe replace just the Sankofa itself with stainless steel that's painted, that's powder-coated paint, because it's very heavy, and it would be two solid pieces that would replace the tiny tiles, not all of the tile. And that would be set into what exists there now. So, and I guess I'll let Jerome take it from there.
Yeah. The idea of using powder coating is that it's specifically been designed to weather outdoor environments. If you're not familiar with the process, it's an electrical means by which the painting material, it's not really paint, it's a powder, is electrically fused with the metal. So they're basically bonded together, which would be good for maintenance purposes, and as Corin mentioned, withstanding the rigors of having snow and ice. I understand that the plaza does not get plowed in the winter, so that you've got all of that moisture sitting on top of it. So it seems as if powder coating would be a very practical way of providing a stabilized color. The downside of that is that when I went to potential powder coating companies and gave them a photograph of the original, they started scratching their heads because they could not think of a way to actually replicate the color variety that was part of the original, as Corin mentioned, with the smaller ceramic tiles. I went to several and got the same kind of "you must be kidding" response. And so what I decided to do was to propose a color that would be unified, and that would have the spirit or the energy or the objective of the original multicolored tiles, in terms of a color that has reference to Kente culture, in which orange, yellowish orange, has a sense of representing dignity, of wealth, et cetera. The choice was further narrowed with respect to the physical characteristics of some of these powder coating materials. I didn't want anything that would be highly glossy. I thought that would be inappropriate. So the choice became narrowed down to those colors which would have more of a matte finish, so that they're not glaring in the sunlight. And that resulted in the tile sample that I provided that I believe Corin has with him or will be able to show you.
Yep, he's getting out of his seat right now to get it.
Okay.
See, we can do this.
That's the orange, the brighter color. That's
Right,
more
yeah,
the
yeah.
bronze on the back, and this is the stainless steel, so it'd be this thick, and this is at least 20 pounds, just this tiny piece right here. And it would be
Right.
2 or 3 times the size of this, so it'd be quite heavy, which would help it stay
Right.
put. Does anybody want to touch? I can walk it around the room.
I'll touch
and just
it,
feel
yeah.
it.
So, and these are the same, oh yeah, that is thick.
It's pretty stout.
These are the same colorings that were previously used in the tiles, right? I feel like that orange looks so much brighter than,
And so it would be just the uniform color of the orange, Jerome, just so we're all clear here?
Yeah, that was, again, the downside of using this process is that it would be, from what people are telling me, I think I can understand the rationale, it would really be impossible to mix colors in the manner that the tiles will mix, certainly not that small. Larger sections of color could be perhaps utilized, but without having the smaller character, I think it's better to go with something that's more of a large, unified color surface.
so, Jerome, there's no way to, like, I guess, and I'm sorry, I'm the farthest thing from an artist, there's no way to, like, stamp design, or I'm thinking kind of like with stamped concrete, you can stamp in designs and texture and things like that. There's no way to do it with this type of material or similar. I guess that's just my concern, is that right now it is so vibrant, so texture filled, that I would hate to lose that dynamic when you walk in there with just having one solid piece with no design or detail in it.
Mm-hmm. No, understood. And that's where, again, I'm trying to mitigate the trade-off.
Yeah.
First and foremost, to make sure that whatever we use is going to be stabilized under the conditions that it will be having to endure. And so that's what led me to powder coating. But that process really does not, I mean, I can explore it further, but from what I've been told by the manufacturers, it doesn't really allow for detailing as you're suggesting. The only way of doing that, I think, would be to go back to some kind of tile system. Instead of the smaller tiles that were used initially, maybe tiles that would be larger. I'm encouraged by the fact that the surrounding ceramic tiles are intact. So there may be a lesson to be learned from that with respect to the size of those tiles. And maybe something like that could be used to, if what I'm hearing correctly is to break up the consistency of that orange. Is that your concern?
Yeah, I mean, and anyone who's seen it, feel free to speak up and share opinion. The way I kind of like to run a meeting is where it's this very casual conversation.
I like Sue Sterry speaking. I like the orange. Maybe it's just the tone. Like it's too bright. Like if it could be the same orange but only toned down. And I also I'm a real visual person, so I was going to say to take that piece out there and put it on top and get some sort of idea of just how out of place it not. It's, you know, if it feels right.
Yeah, we can get a mock-up photo, kind of. I just had one more question. Have we explored the idea of, like, and this may not exist, like an outdoor, like epoxy sealant? Like you know what I mean? I think about, you know, and this is maybe a bad example, but, you know, kind of like that clear epoxy that they, you can put over things, and like then with some grit, so obviously people don't slip. My concern, and I think that this would be shared with the community, is, and I know I'm probably beating a dead horse, it is so intricate and so beautiful now. I hate to lose that. And so I don't know if there is, like I said, any type of, and maybe it makes it so that we have some type of small redesign where people aren't standing on that one part of it. But that's just my opinion, is that I hate to lose, that. To me, that is when you walk there, Jerome, and it's a credit to your work. When you walk there, you are looking at your feet. You are acknowledging that memorial and that monument from the ground up.
Right. Yeah, well, I do have I'm not sure when you refer to epoxy exactly what your thinking is.
I guess I'm thinking, and this is a very a shallow thought process of it, is like when you do an outdoor patio, sometimes you do like an outdoor, like epoxy sealant over the top of it. I'm just thinking, I had a contractor at my house and they were like, yeah, we can epoxy the gravel so that it doesn't move. So I wonder if that is an option to look at, to essentially seal over, so it's not just the tile sealed to the grout, there's a cover on top of it, kind of. I'm going to pass the mic real quick to Chris Dwyer, who is integral.
Okay. Hi, Jerome.
Chris, how are you?
Good. A couple of thoughts. I don't think the orange complements the site. We've just had a commissioning for a sculpture that will be at Pierce Island, which, the winner hasn't been announced yet. But through that process, we saw a variety of materials and techniques used. And one that's coming to mind, two, Corin will remember because Corin was on the committee, is a powder-coated steel that is a varied color. You remember in the one that we've selected, it varies from a green to a gradient. It's a gradient. That's right.
I think it's an enamel, though, isn't it? Like an automobile paint?
It's an automobile paint enamel with a gradient.
Yeah.
And so there, I believe, you could get some of the dimension that you're talking about. And the automobile coated is, similar to what you're looking for, outdoor, weather resistant, et cetera. And then I'm thinking of the other one where, which is like the tall statue one, where the artist has a lot of experience with powder-coated steel and does a lot of designs within powder-coated, with the powder-coated finish, again designed for outdoor. So I wonder if there are, Corin, do you agree with those two?
Yeah, I think he was also using enamel. So
was
they
he
were all
using enamel?
Like auto-grade enamel paints.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not going to have the practicality of standing up underfoot, under snow, under ice. I don't think.
Well, but it's like an automobile finish. Then the other thing is, now they do have scratch-resistant plexiglass, which, thinking of what the assistant mayor mentioned, not very expensive, something that could be placed on top, and especially during the winter, and then simply removed. And, you could have a lot of those cut. So a couple options, but I wonder if some of the artists that we have been working with who do all outdoor work might have ideas for those.
I was thinking about the sculpture that's going at Bohingo Park, where that is going to be fully exposed.
But that's aluminum.
Okay, that's aluminum. Okay.
I could be wrong about this, but sorry, Jerome. This is Gina from the Black Heritage Trail. I could be wrong, but I think part of the problem is not so much the snow and the ice on the top, but everything coming up from under the ground. That just a simple coating is not going to help. It's the material that it's made out of that's going to prevent it from popping up when the ground shifts and freezes.
Well, that's why these are made of steel. So
Yeah.
these are automobile painted over steel,
Yeah.
similar kind of thing.
Okay.
My only question would be automotive paint eventually rusts.
Well,
Yeah.
Does the paint rust or does the steel rust?
But as you know now, cars don't rust out anymore because they are coated with a, you don't see that anymore because they're now coated with a different material, unless you have a very old car.
Most of the parts are plastic now, rather than
Yeah.
metal.
Well, I think it would be worth at least looking into if we can get some of the, Corin, if we can get some of the materials that were presented from those two, and then maybe we can get that
Yeah.
over to Jerome. I agree that, to me, that just doesn't feel, good enough for what we need to be doing in that sense. Not necessarily your work per se. I just think, as someone who, and like a lot of people goes to that Memorial Park quite often, there's a sense of, again, I know I'm beating this dead horse, that these tiles, while they are annoying a lot of times, you'll be standing on there and be like, oh, one just broke. The intricacy of what it is, just adds to me to a depth to the whole piece.
Right. And remember, it's not sitting on the ground.
Yes.
It's got a vault underneath it, so it's not like water is coming up.
And that's what I wondered if is it maybe that this becomes almost like two layered, right? So maybe we have a plain stainless steel plate, and then we have a little bit of an elevated around it, and maybe that gives us the ability to have something like the mosaic tiles in a clear kind of thick, weather resistant epoxy that can kind of be visualized and seen, and it's just up off the ground a little bit.
Well, the concern there is we only have, I believe, about half an inch of thickness. What we don't want is to have something that would be placed there that would extend beyond that depth, because then that's a kicking hazard, that's a tripping hazard. So these are the two primary things that I was trying to focus on: structural stability and durability. So the 1/8 inch to 1/2 inch thick powder coating matches the depth of the space that needs to be filled, so it's flush with the surrounding tiles. So whatever we do, and I'm certainly open. I appreciate the concerns, because I have those concerns myself. I mean, the trade-off of what I included in the design from the beginning. If there's any way possible to continue that with those two concerns, structural integrity, stability rather, and durability, then I'm open. But again, we've got half an inch of depth to work with, so whatever it is needs to, I would really vote against having something that extends up beyond that.
I guess my question is, if we did something that extended beyond it, but we did it towards like an actual almost like cylinder, right? And then we had something, so it became another fixture. In my head, and I'm not an artist, but I'm just spitballing. In my head, if we look at the statues, right, with the kind of the brushed metal plating, and that became a topper, like a cylinder topper over this, and then we elevated it, and we had kind of a clear table that maybe had the mosaics or something like that. Again, I'm just spitballing in my head, that maybe the option is that if it's not flushed, it's a dedicated space, if that makes sense, if I'm describing this the way that in my head it's coming through.
Well, I'm not sure, when you say cylinder, I'm not sure how that relates.
I'm not sure how to.
Would it be equal to something like a case like that?
Yeah, like if we thought that we had, I guess I'm trying to figure out better ways to describe. I think the group can see because I'm making visuals. If you give me one moment, I'll let you guys. I'll see if I can pull together a better.
Like a tabletop?
Almost like a tabletop. Like I was just in Vienna and went to a museum, and they had these kind of giant glass cylinders where you could see these Egyptian pieces, and you looked down into it. So it's like it's completely encased and protected, and so maybe in that sense we have piece of the coated stainless steel on that bottom, and then that internal, protection can be something a little bit different. I think of clear poured epoxy where you can place things and be able to see designs. This is now throwing, a mile high, mile wide toss. But I'm just thinking that, if we are worried about the fact that we have to be flush to be safe, then maybe we look at the alternative, which is a raised structure on top of the of where the opening.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so when you say cylinder, you're speaking the diameter.
Correct. Yes.
Circle.
Yes.
I see. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Joanna's idea also suggests, I don't know if this committee has considered, the same material that the figures are made of, and that could be stamped or incised with the Sankofa design.
Yes. You just said it in 5 words.
Okay, forgive me, but I missed the first part of what you were saying.
Jerome, the same material that the standing figures are made of, is that a possibility that could become the round plate that has the Sankofa design incised in it or stamped in it?
So that would, okay, let me make sure I understand. That bronze would then articulate the Sankofa symbol so that the existing tiles that are still in good condition would be exposed.
Oh, I was thinking the whole thing would be replaced. I'm thinking long-term, is that a viable thing, that the whole thing becomes bronze instead of what's there now?
Right. Well, I mean, my gut reaction is it becomes then too similar to those figures, and we lose all sense of color. I mean, color was intended to be a very important part of that Sankofa, making that Sankofa statement.
Right,
that's my gut reaction to that suggestion.
Though the bronze would have a dignity to it, like the figures do, and have that more yellow gold color.
The bronze would not be able to give us those colors because you can't, well, to my knowledge, if it's going to be powder coated, it's still the same problem as powder coating stainless steel.
But I'm thinking of the bronze figures that are the standing figures that have the poems on them.
Right, exactly, yeah, I understand.
And they have a yellow gold sense to them.
Right, yeah, okay.
And so if we did either a cylinder or the cover within that, is that what you're saying, Chris?
Well, just
that.
Just flat.
Just flat with that.
I think it has an aesthetic
tie-in.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think I would say what it sounds like is we don't feel like we are losing anything by replacing those colored tiles with another piece of the bronze that is stamped with some design or some detail.
Okay.
Sue?
What were...
I'm not sure how to approach this because I thought I indicated that the original design called for the Sankofa to stand out from those other figures by virtue of the presence of colors.
I would just suggest that what Sue suggested, which is to bring this piece to the actual place, because I think this thing on its own is just a hunk of metal that looks like we took it off a whatever. It's orange, but if you laid it in the space, that color is going to be absorbed by what's all around it, and I think it may not feel as simple as it might seem here. That it may blend in more. You might think, oh, that isn't actually that bad when you see it next to the actual other tiles and in the space itself. So I think that might be worth exploring as well.
And if they can do an orange already, I'm sure they can do a different, like a different tone, just tone it down.
I'm not sure that's something Jerome.
That color is the color that's currently there.
Yeah.
of the orange tiles. That's the same color.
It's pretty dead
It's
on,
the
yeah.
darker orange
Yeah.
tiles.
I've
That is
just
that
seen the
color.
little ones when they
Yeah.
popped
The little
out.
ones are like yellow, and the
Right.
well, they're yellow and orange, and that orange is the same. We have a whole. They look like Cheez-Its. We have like a whole bowl of them at the Black Heritage
I was
Trail.
gonna say every time I just drop them off.
Yeah, everyone brings them to us, so we have like a whole bowl of them, and I can tell you that's the same color.
Oh, good. No.
And Jerome, I just wanted to point out, I think there's a lot more of them missing now than you think. More than half of them
Okay.
are gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that, Cory. I think it is a matter of making sure that we're seeing it in context. So whatever you all can arrange to do that, I don't think I'll be able to come up with that, but unless you bring me. But otherwise, I think that would be a good way of being more fully informed about. Again, I want to stress that the color for the Sankofa was a big part of the conceptual design, the aesthetic relationship.
I just have a quick question, Jerome, or Corin actually can answer. Were they put down individually, or were they backed and put down?
They're put into a bed of mortar or epoxy mortar, so they're individually placed.
Isn't there another method that in the old days when you did mosaic, well, maybe you don't remember, but mosaics and stuff, tiny tiles like that came on a sheet.
Yeah, I don't think that's the issue. I think the real issue is that they're so small that it creates so many gaps that it's just too much gap for water, and there's no. They're not heavy enough, so like they get worked out way too easily.
And they can't be made out of a heavier.
I mean, not tile unless he, as suggested earlier, maybe went to larger pieces of tile to somehow make that shape that were maybe. And I don't know, Jerome, I'm not obviously a tile expert, so I don't know if you made each side of the Sankofa out of 3 pieces of tile.
That's what I was going to ask, if that metal, if that was possible to do in pieces.
That would be, I
Do like
believe,
each
2
of them
pieces.
3 pieces.
Oh, I
So you
see.
could do the different colors. Each side of the Sankofa symbol
Are you hearing
to
that,
be in
Jerome?
different pieces of that metal.
Yeah, I think so.
Can the, when you break down the Sankofa, can that be broken down into multiple pieces of steel that would be maybe 2 different colors, or?
And there's got to be a mosaic.
Yeah, that's a possibility, certainly.
Because then you maintain both of those colors, but can still use the brushed steel.
And I feel like
But again, we've got limited color range with the powder coating, because if you think that orange is bright, believe me, that's more subdued than the other colors that they have
I don't think the orange is too bright.
available.
I love the orange.
I've narrowed it down to those which would be more matte finish. Now, granted, I went to 2 companies here in Savannah. I thought at one point about seeing if there was someone, a company there in Portsmouth that could do it. I could reach out to them and see if they have a different story, a different possible solution.
I would, Jerome, Joe Kelly here again. I would think that, maybe reaching out to some manufacturers in the Northeast, because they may be able to guide and say, no, absolutely, you're not going to be able to do X, Y, and Z. You should go with this. I think they're gonna know. I think a little bit more of our conditions and what is possible and not possible.
Well, and let's get you the information because we had 23 applicants and and international people. A number of them proposed things that would have coating. So we can just give you the list from those of possibilities.
powder coating's powder coating.
Yeah.
Whether you do it in Georgia or up here, it's that part's the same anywhere you go.
Yeah.
That's my point, Cory, that even if the company is located in the Southeast, they're doing powder coating all over the country, all over the world. So,
But if you hold, I know that the coloration is different. If you hold up that example anywhere close to what we see there, it feels very different.
It feels, and I think part of that is maybe 15 years or now what are we at 14 years almost, that was the color. It is no longer anywhere close to what
Joe, I spent 13 years on that project.
Yeah.
That was never anywhere close to the color, I don't
Really?
believe. Or it didn't feel that way in the
In that,
project.
It
in
looks
that,
brighter out of context.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, with that color, this is Chief Patterson. It's
Oh, just, I'm sorry, pull the mic closer to you, sorry, I should have.
okay. Color is very important to all of us, but also to most West Africans as well. And
Touche.
yes, so it's it needs to be just a tad more vibrant, or unless you put some sort of gold interest in it, because if not, it's just it gives a different sort of message. Mm-hmm. You know, so if we're going to look at it, we either, if we're going to go with this, we just have to maybe play around with the colors to give it a little bit more texture and warmth, because this seems, with the greatest of respect, slightly flat.
Yeah. Would it be, I almost wonder if it's possible to combine the two ideas, like how Chris had with the bronze and with these? Like, could the bronze be inlaid within that, or like cut to no?
I mean, that would be,
Aesthetically, that doesn't really work for me.
yeah.
Well, I was thinking replicating. You know, do you get what I'm saying? Like replicating, like if this was the state, Jerome, you could not see, but we are looking at it.
Okay.
Where the tile design was the bronze, and where this is the powder coated stainless steel. I don't know if that even solves the issue or just creates an issue of the worry of separation.
More seams.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be a problem.
I think the other factor too, with what Jerome was trying to accomplish, is that we were trying not to disturb the whole thing. And just
Sure.
replace the actual Sankofa, which is
Right.
I might have that wrong, but that's my understanding is that is the shape.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
called the Sankofa.
Yeah.
So, and that was just to eliminate on it turning into a much larger project and trying to simplify the process of the maintenance. So that's where this kind of got born out of.
So
And we weren't thinking about replacing the whole top.
So I'm a little confused. So if you're just replacing the design for the Sankofa, okay?
Yes.
So, and you're looking at making it orange and yellow? I mean, I'm not too sure. Or are you making that all orange, the color you just showed us?
You were thinking all orange, correct, Jerome? Both pieces?
Well, yeah, that's it. I'm talking about the limitations of the powder coating process. When I first approached these folks, I took them the photographs of the original Sankofa and said, how can we powder coat this? And they just basically said there's no way, because of what that process entails. So the more I talked with them, the more it seemed that if we're going to go with powder coating, that this uniform color would be practically the best way to do it. And so then, again, I'm repeating myself, it went into what colors are available. I don't want them glossy, and so the color that you're looking at was what I came up with as a result of that process. I'm curious too, I'm afraid I didn't get her name, but she spoke about the colors.
I was going to say something, yeah. And I think it's important that we take into consideration what you talked about, color being very important to West Africa.
Jill, can you pull the mic towards you, please? Okay.
Exactly, yeah, I'd like to hear more about that.
Because if you have the orange, if you decide to go with that, could the trim be gold or bronze?
When you say the trim, I'm not sure what
Could you outline the Sankofa shape with any kind of, so imagine you recess the pieces into the existing tile. Is there any,
Okay.
could you band the outer edge where you would maybe add some gold or bronze to that and bring that in to sort of highlight or outline the shape of the Sankofa?
And is that contingent upon whether we're using the stainless or some other material? Or is that suggesting that would be the case with the stainless color?
If we decide to use that color, I think having some sort of bonding
Or a band?
or a band
Like a band that followed the shape?
about it will then add
Saying like This area?
Yeah.
No,
Or
like
the shape itself.
Around the shape
Literally the
itself.
shape itself.
Literally.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
On this.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
this looks gold from here. but-
Yeah, because if you do that, it adds a sort of richness and draws us back to the earth. That's what I think. What do you think?
So I think there's a confusion in the discussion, at least the question that you asked is only the Sankofa shape being replaced, or is the Sankofa shape and
The cover.
the
No,
background
let me be clear.
being?
The idea was to, everything you see this yellow and orange, the tiny tiles, those get removed. And then 2 big pieces are made from the stainless steel that are this color, and they just get put in
Into the
to replace that. But the more,
Like the terracotta
terracotta
color,
stays.
the larger tiles
Stays.
are fine. There's nothing
Correct.
wrong with them. They don't need to be replaced. It's
Correct,
just the
correct.
small yellow and orange tiles that are coming up.
Because if you put that trim on it and then maybe around the actual seal as well, just replicate it, I think it will bring it a little bit more balance and just tone the orange down. I don't know, what do you think?
So we
I
need
think
to
it's an actually interesting,
introduce
really
the
interesting
yellow
idea.
That
make
might
it
bring in
stand
some
out.
variety of
Yeah,
color.
I think it's
Yeah.
a great idea. I mean, could you get pieces cut like that to follow the, that were maybe gold, like the gold color you have on the back of this sample piece, Jerome, for example?
Well, what I would look to do is to use, and that's where the bronze can be tied in.
Yeah.
That we were talking about on the standing figures. Basically cut to half-inch strips, half-inch thick strips that would then be edging around the Sankofa. I think that was also what I find intriguing about that is that it sort of mitigates or marries the relationship between the orange to the existing tiles that are still in place.
Yeah. Do you worry about the seaming that's involved in all of that in terms of water damage, buckling, et cetera?
Well, what I would imagine is, this is thinking out loud, that metal strip would be attached to the Sankofa, so that's one unit. And again, as Corin pointed out, with the weight of that Sankofa and the thickness and bonding material underneath it, there should not be any movement.
No, I don't think so.
It's very heavy.
And again, with that metal strip attached to the stainless steel, they're existing as one. So in other words, the bronze strip, let's say it's going to be bronze, would not be independent and then able to sort of do its own thing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear, you're talking about there would be 2, well, I know they're not S's, but there would be the all one piece for each S, or that each.
Correct.
So two, yeah.
Correct.
For each sample, yeah.
Because you can't have 2 different colors. It's not balanced.
Correct, yeah.
Is there, and this is just a question, is there a way to add texture to potentially to that, to the stainless steel powder coated?
This is the most textured process that I was able to discern. Otherwise, I can ask, but I can't imagine it's going to be something that they would want to take responsibility for, is to add sand or something that would create a texture, but then
has a little texture.
that goes in a whole different direction in terms of pieces of sand popping out over time.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, I can look in the Northeast, but as Corin pointed out, powder coating is powder coating wherever you have it done. And this is the best that they could give me with respect to a non-glossy, semi-matte, semi-textured surfacing. But again, we can certainly continue to discuss this, but I think that it would be useful, as again, as Corin had pointed out, to take that piece over. It's designed to fit into the lower half of one of those sides and put it in place. And and see what it looks like, and if time permits, to see what it looks like at night, to see what it looks like on a bright day, to see what it looks like on a cloudy day.
So, Sister Mary, I'm cognizant that
Of
we
time,
need to
yes.
wrap up by 5, and if there's interest in scheduling a site visit, where we could go over with the piece and take a look at it on site, we might want to find some time to
Yeah, I would assume we all have that interest. Corin, what is your schedule?
Let me know. I'll be there.
Okay. Jill?
I just have a question. Where the Sankofa sign is and on the edge of it, are we making it even, or are we going to highlight it with with the bronze? Is that what you're thinking about doing?
Yeah, I think that
So
was
it just will
consensus.
go around the trim of it?
Yeah.
Could
Yeah,
that be
yeah.
maybe a little bit more textured if you're looking for something, so it's not all the same flat surface? But maybe that edging could be a little bit more textured, so that would help what she was talking about?
Yeah, I just Googled like a texture of powder coated stainless steel. And so that's why I just didn't know. Is there times that, because I know that we are really trying to make some decisions and some good, thorough, thought out decisions, but some decisions in the very near future to figure out what to do with this. Are there like times that work best for, I know everyone works, is there any suggested times that people could meet? We could maybe do like 1 or 2. It should only take a few minutes if we can wiggle it into Corin's schedule.
Or a lot of people seem to be able to make it now, maybe
Yeah.
3:30 or 4.
Yeah, maybe 4.
Corin doesn't mind staying late.
Maybe 3:30 next Monday. Would that? And if you cannot, what I can do too is like get your contact information. I could FaceTime you when we're there, and take detailed videos if people can't make it.
Photographing it, I think, would be great.
Yeah.
Do 3:30 on Monday.
You got Corin?
I should be able to be there.
But next week.
Next week.
Next Monday,
Friday. But
Monday the
So you'll be
12th,
filmed by Monday.
or Monday. I said Friday the 12th. I said Monday the 12th.
I don't have my personal phone. That's fine.
Okay.
Somebody will be there.
Okay, yeah, somebody.
Yeah.
And then if Jill, or if you can't make it, we can try to make sure Sandy can be there, or somebody.
Okay. Would I be able to just take a picture of just a smidgen of it to have the color?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I can, if people need to meet individually, I'm pretty flexible. I could meet you, Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 3:30 anytime. I think you could probably give people my email.
Yep.
Feel free to reach out if you want me. If you don't have time to meet with the group, I can just meet you there individually, 2 at a time, 1 at a time, however you want to do it.
So one of the reasons why we were trying to make sure we keep this process moving forward is that because we are losing more tiles and winter will be here sooner than we expect. Jerome, what did you think might be the time for you to, once you're given the green light with some type of process, how long do you think it would take? Do we need to make some kind of decisions in the next month or two about some temporary, if it's going to take 6 months to come up with a solution?
I will, depending on the availability of people, of companies tomorrow or this week, I'll reach out to them and find out what could be an expedited time frame for, 1, producing the stainless, and then 2, for the powder coater to do what they do. So let's say by the end of the week, I should be able to give you an informed answer to that question.
Okay, I'm just thinking of, trying to make sure we do what we need to do to protect from the elements, when we head to winter, if this, whatever is decided upon, isn't ready to be installed, so, okay.
Well, with that question, in terms of pushing, we're looking to have it done before winter. What's the workable calendar date? What would be?
I think we're that's pushing it.
That's why I'm
I
asking.
think more realistic is probably building it this winter
And
and installing
installing
it
it.
next spring, early summer, if we're going to be realistic, because we
that's
have to
why I'm
figure out
asking.
the banding. I
Right.
think there's going to be multiple choices to make along the way, and
Right.
as soon as it starts getting cold, removing any kind of tile or any masonry gets more difficult.
Sure.
So, I mean, I think to be realistic, maybe by June.
Juneteenth of
By
next
Juneteenth, that's,
year?
make it a goal to have that done prior to that.
We would love
Okay.
it for it to be done before
I think that's a
Juneteenth.
reasonable timeline. Jerome, don't you?
Yeah, that sounds great. So did I hear Juneteenth would be our target?
Before Juneteenth,
A week
preferably.
before, a week before.
So that the Black Heritage Trail and SAC can still have their event on
Yes.
Juneteenth. If that's at all possible.
Right. Okay, understood.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jerome. We will
Okay, thank
get
you.
back to you. Thank you so much for all your hard work, and obviously, we all are so passionate about the memorial. Okay,
Yes,
so
yes.
transitioning very quick because we only have about 10 more minutes. I will open the floor to public comment, if there's any.
I just came to comments representing the Public Art Review Committee
Yes.
because with other public art, this is part of our charge to look at maintenance, and many people have asked us about the maintenance and when things will happen here. So one of the things that we hope to have as a goal is to annually or biannually do a kind of a review of the different commissioned pieces to see what needs to happen for maintenance, because everything after an 8 to 10 year period requires refresh and redo, but also because we are commissioning, we're developing information about various processes and new techniques that are happening all the time. So to be a resource, to be able to say, here are 4 artists who are experimenting right now with, different approaches to doing things, to be able to act as that resource.
Perfect, thank you. That's one thing we did talk about, is whether it would make sense, and we can discuss at our next meeting, make sense to have a standing member on this committee also.
Right.
Well, thank you. The last big matter is to discuss the slave cemetery on Lafayette. And as some of you may know, some of you do not know, there's believed to be a slave cemetery kind of behind, how would you describe it?
It's right behind
It's
the
right
Red
behind the
House,
rec-
right behind
yeah.
the Red House, and there is a small brick wall that encloses it.
You're talking about the Episcopal Church.
Right.
on the
Yes.
Side going up.
Yes.
And there are only a handful of, there are no actual headstones, and there are about a handful of the stone markers that they had, but according to records that I have, there were more, but the stones have either gone down in but
Yeah.
there are still stones there.
So-
And it's definitely a cemetery.
Yeah. So one of the things we have talked about in the cemetery committee is an amazing job in this town of underneath their charter of maintaining and looking at and taking care of cemeteries. And one of the things that Suzanne and I talked about was should this fall under our purview? Do we want to a little bit extend the purview of the African Burial Ground Committee to look at some of these known or maybe unknown slave graveyards within our community? We know we had slaves in our community. We know we had. We know we have at least one known, and probably I would assume a few more others that are unknown or unrecognized.
There may be one out on Ocean Road.
So just for consideration of this committee is if we think that we want to take that under as a combined kind of project with the cemetery committee. I think yes. I think that, the Portsmouth's legacy as it goes towards slavery and the slave trade does not end just at the burial ground, and I think it's important as a community that we acknowledge. There's been a lot of work to make sure that people of color, and especially the Black community, has been acknowledged for their role in our area over the last 400 plus years. So that is something to consider that I'll work with Suzanne to kind of to drop what that would look like, and we'll bring it back to the committee if the committee has interest in that. Okay.
Just so you know, I've documented all the
Yes.
cemeteries in town, including the one in Episcopal. I mean, I know right where it is, but it's on Ocean Road, and it's way back on the property, and again, it's just stones. But other people have been there before me and talked to the property owners and looking specifically for either Indian or slaves in that point in time, and the family is agreeable, that people can go over there and look around some more, so.
Well, that's great. So we'll get together
Yeah.
on that. Okay, and then organizational matters. So agenda items for future meetings. That obviously is a big agenda item for our future meetings. And then figuring out this.
And I think to the extent there's a better time of day, is it towards the back end of the day, like 4 o'clock, or is it, lunchtime? I think really trying to find a time where at least most people can send at least one representative from the organization would be really lovely and keep this moving forward, which is what we're hoping to do.
I think 4 o'clock is a really good time. We have to be mindful of people who do work.
Yeah.
Whether they can get off in the middle of the day or not. So I think this is a really good time.
Does Monday's first Monday of the month, obviously if it's a holiday, then we will figure out whether we bump it a week or bump it to a Tuesday, but does the first Monday, 4 p.m. tend to work?
Are we going to bump into city council meetings?
Well, if we keep it at 4 o'clock and we don't have 5:15 non-publics, then we'll be fine. But that's one of the things we actually said. We said we're already here, and we're already we're staying anyways.
That's fine.
So it works. It works for me. Don't worry about me. So I would say that we will meet pretty regularly until we make some firm decisions as a group, and then we'll be, I would assume, not potentially monthly. Once everything gets around, that can change if we decide to take on more endeavor with trying to identify and marker and figure out what a game plan would be for any slave unmarked cemetery. That is,
Well, yeah.
it's
But
very clearly
we would
defined.
like to have a representative on the committee because there are a lot of, they may have been former slaves, but like we're doing the headstone for Dinah Chase Whipple, things like that. And there are a lot of African Americans buried in all 7 of the cemeteries.
Yeah.
I mean, when I say a lot, it's not like half the cemetery, but 4 or 5.
More than one.
More than one.
Yeah.
And they actually have actual headstones. So that we've always felt that way.
And I think it's important to remember that it's a Catholic cemetery, because when I was talking to Valerie, I think sometimes last year or so, she'd mentioned someone for me to look into. It was at St. Mary's Cemetery, which I forgot even existed. It's across the street from Calvary.
Yeah.
And being Catholic, I just was like, oh, I always recognized it, never knew the name of it. So
and
they're
there are a
very
few
anxious.
people that are there.
We're going to have a database done real quick of all the cemeteries, and the woman that's in charge of all of that is checking with Manchester Diocese right now to see if we can get their database and add it to ours. That will be hopefully up online, but they're really agreeable to.
I've gone there and met with her.
Oh yeah, she's really nice.
Very
Kate.
nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So date and time, and then really our big 2 agenda items will be we'll call it a coalition or collaboration with the cemetery committee, and then figuring out design, color, all of that for the replacement for the, how do I say it?
Sankofa.
Sankofa. The other day I called her sarcophagus. And I was like, that's not the right word. That's not what I meant to say. Okay. Any comment, questions, anything from the committee?
Just to piggyback on the maintenance thing, the fronts of some of the community figures have been popping off.
Okay.
So that's also something to
Yeah,
look at, which I'm sure
we've
you
been
know.
gluing those back on as that kind of happens.
Yeah.
Jerome is actually working on a proposal for riveting or connecting all those on the perimeter. So he should have that to me sometime by the end of summer.
Okay.
Because something, again,
Needs to
the
be
water
done.
is getting behind. We've tried every type of stuff you can put back in there. It just seems to keep popping, so we're working on that.
Yeah, it's the double-handed sword when you have all these talented artists that maybe are not from this area, and they are just not aware of the ruggedness of the Northeast.
It's a harsh place.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, I would look for a motion to adjourn. Anyone can just say,
I second it.
okay. 1-1, great. All adjourned.
Thank you.